Welcome back to the kitchen table. It's season 2. Can you believe it? Season 2, episode 2. Let's call it episode 2, right? Because I'm doing a solo. Just had Matt, sit down with Matt at the kitchen table. Talked about his experience and his roof rope rescue along with 2 others from Ladder 28, Cazzo and Lopez. So that was great interview. I had so much fun. It was pretty awesome. Had a really good time. And I piggybacked off of end of season 1 interview with Brian Quinn from Ladder 30 from my old firehouse, who performed a high-rise roof rope rescue with the life-saving rope. Great episode, great interview. He was awesome to sit down with. Found out about his background. That got the most views on the YouTube channel. So if you guys are just listening on Spotify and Apple, head on over to YouTube and subscribe and check that out because there's bonus footage on that. And the same thing goes with any week. There's usually bonus footage. I put a couple of short videos out on YouTube trying to get people to come and watch the show or listen to the show. So if you guys are just listening in the car on Apple and Spotify, head on over to YouTube and you can watch. It's pretty cool watching. I like making that content. That's a lot of fun. This is pretty easy just talking. I'm talking into the camera. I'm talking into the microphone. But anyway, like I said, season 2, I can't thank you guys enough for the support. For everybody who's watched and listened to the show, who reached out to me, who supported me, who kind words, and a couple people I've talked to that I don't even know that were looking for some advice. And it shows you that slowly but surely I am reaching people. And that's what I want to do. That's the whole plan, is to reach people. And it's happening. I'm starting to make friends on Instagram and other people and other places that I don't know that have followers, and hopefully that all expands. Hopefully we can reach a whole bunch of people. But remember, this channel, this table, the kitchen table, is for everyone, not just first responders. I am a retired New York City fireman, and I'm going to get to the retired part today. I am a career first responder. When I retired, I felt like I just needed to start talking because I didn't feel like I had a purpose anymore. So, my therapy was at the kitchen table, and now I'm bringing it to you because it makes me feel better. The month and a half that I didn't record or do any of this stuff, I was actually kind of like depressed. It was weird. I was down. I was out of my routine because the weather's getting warmer. I'm having a hard time keeping the ice plunge, the cold water plunge, freaking tub cold, So a little out of my routine, a little out of doing this. Got to get used to talking again. Hopefully I don't suck, but Anyway, so check it out. Like I said, the kitchen table is for everyone. Last season, I really focused on mental health and mental health message in the first responder community, but not exclusive to it. This season, I think I'm going to scale that down a little bit. I'm still going to try and get a quick message out because that's very, very important. It's a problem in first responders. It's a problem in the military. It's a problem really for everybody. May was Mental Health Awareness Month. June, I'm seeing, is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. That's news to me. I didn't know anything about that, so let's go with that. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So men, if you're having any problems in your mind, if you're depressed, go and get help. Seek help. Talk to somebody. There's lots of resources out there. Call 988. Go to your job. Get therapy. Anything like that. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. But because the interview with Brian got the most views so far on YouTube, I'm going to try and start doing that. This season, had my first interview with Matt, my cousin, who was the third guy to go over the roof in a apartment building fire. We call him a tenement in Harlem in February. And I sat him down and he told me all about it, told me about his background and his time with EMS on the fire department, getting transferred into squad and getting to that roof rope rescue. It was a great interview. Had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. I'm still working on my interview skills. Hopefully you guys liked it. Hopefully you guys watched that one already. Now this is episode 2. It's going to be a solo. Hopefully next week I'm going to try and get another interview and then a solo and kind of like do every other because the interviews are a lot more challenging to edit than the solos. And as I'm finding out, the fucking microphone didn't work, this and that and the other thing. And I just cursed, so what I'm trying to do as well this season, a few different changes this season. I'm trying to cut down my cursing. Listen, I'm going to let an F-bomb fly every now and again. It is what it is, but I feel like I curse way too much. Might turn off some people in the audience, But that's just me. This channel is all about honesty, transparency. I'm kind of like, you guys are looking at me and going, this is who I am. What you see is what you get. This is how I talk, especially when I'm around the brothers in the firehouse, especially when we're having laughs, especially when we're hooting and hollering, or even when I'm pissed. I curse a lot. But because of this platform, because of this forum, I'm going to try and cut it down because it could be a little uncomfortable, it could be a little cringy. Anyway, that's one thing that I'm going to try and change. So more interviews, more fire interviews. I got some cops lined up. I got some military guys lined up. I got other guys lined up. It's just getting everybody with their schedule and time to get there and sit down and interview them. Everybody works. Everybody's busy. And I will get there because I don't really want to do these remote interviews because I feel like they're not genuine to me. I want to sit down with a guy. If I got to travel to wherever, if I have the time, I'm going to do it. That's what I really want to do. I mean, I'm not putting that out of the realm of possibility in the future of doing those kind of interviews, remote ones, but I'd rather not. Anyway, quick mental health message. I've been running into guys that have retired, right? When guys retire, nobody tells you what it's like. Nobody really knows what it's like unless you talk to a real retired guy. And even then, sometimes they don't tell you anything anyway. But when a guy has a job, say he's a fireman for 30, 35, 40 years, all he's known, all he lives, all he breathes is fire department. Everything in his life is geared around the firehouse and going to the firehouse and doing things with the fire department. His kids, his wife, his family, his side job, his civilian life, whatever. It's all geared toward the fire department. And when they retire, whether they're forced off the job at 65, whether they're injured and they can't go back to the job, it's a dangerous job, people get hurt and they get forced off the job when they're not ready to retire, or they're thinking about retiring, but they're not quite sure, and they decide to retire. I've run into a bunch of guys that are like, first thing guys ask you, how's retirement? I always said, doesn't suck, baby. It doesn't suck. Because for me, I was ready to go. I love the job. I love fighting fire. I love the guys. I love the table. I love all that stuff. But I don't feel like, I definitely am not defined as a fireman. Like, that doesn't define who I am. I was a cop. I was in the Navy, whatever. I don't feel like any of that defines me. It's just something that I did. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I love fighting fires. I mean, there's parts of the job that you don't love, but I feel like it's what I did, right? So retiring wasn't that difficult for me. I was ready to go. I had enough. I didn't do 40 years like these guys, some of these guys do. These guys that do 30, 35, 40 years, that's all they know. They're defined as firemen. It's all they wanted to do. That's all they want to do still. They would fight fires till the day they freaking keel over at 95 years old. And then when they retire, they don't know what to do with themselves. It's almost like, you ever see Shawshank Redemption when Morgan Freeman says that you're institutionalized because you do 30, 40 years in prison, then you get out and you don't know what to do. You can't adapt to the civilian world. It's too fast for you. It's too this, it's too that. It's kind of like that with guys that aren't ready to retire. And that probably goes with any first responder career. Maybe in the civilian life as well. But I'm talking about cops and firemen, paramedics, military. You retire and you're not ready to, you're not completely committed to it, and you're like, shit, this sucks. I don't have enough, I don't know what to do with myself anymore. I don't know, I miss the guys, I miss the firehouse, and guys get overwhelmed, and they start getting depressed, and that happens. If you're not ready to retire, don't. If you're just kind of on the fence about it, don't. Stay on the job. Unless you're completely ready to go, and you're mentally prepared of what comes with retirement, then you go. Unless that, then don't go. If you're forced off the job and you're not ready to go, or you don't want to go and you're fighting to get back, you're going to have to find a way to adjust to retirement. You're going to have to find a hobby. You're going to have to get a job. Keep yourself busy. Work around the house. The first few months are fun because you're catching up on a ton of shit, right? But after that, when things settle down and you've gone on your trips and you're there for things and this and that and the other thing, you're gonna start going, what do I do now? Especially the guys that are career 40-year, 30-year guys that just lived and breathed that job. You have to be prepared for that. Mentally, you might fall into a depression. But have you know, you got to find a routine to get out of that. I ran into a guy and he was in the gym and I was like, how's retirement? He was like, oh, I miss fighting fires. I miss it. I miss the guys. And he just didn't seem like he was happy. So it's shit like that. I ran into another guy that I just met and he basically said retirement sucks. I don't know if he retired because he had something going on. I don't think he was forced out of the job. He thought he was ready. But I'm telling you, be prepared. Be prepared for a lot of time on your hands. Have a hobby. Get a second job. If you have a side job, a lot of guys in the fire department had side jobs. They were plumbers, electricians, security, whatever they did. They had things to fall back on. If you don't, and you just let the wheels turn, and you sit in your room by yourself, you're going to go crazy. Be mentally prepared for retirement. Use that time to get your mind, your body, and your soul straight. Catch up on sleep. Get back into a proper sleep freaking program. Get on a workout routine. Start eating healthy. Your freaking body will start feeling better. Your mind will start feeling better. Get yourself in a good routine. That's the first thing when you retire. Stay on a routine. After that, if you still need, help, if you still need guidance, call like the counseling unit. If you start getting depressed, call the Friends of Firefighters. They're there for retirees as well. Get involved in stuff. If you really miss the fire department that much, if you really miss the guys, get involved. There's plenty of things for guys to retire, for retired guys to get involved in. I ran into a guy in Breezy Point, and this guy was a career dude. He was one of my instructors in the academy. And I ran into him, and he was just like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't fucking know. I was like, and he was a big chief. He was a chief. I was like, you gotta figure it out. I was like, you will. Stay involved in stuff if that's what will get you through. But I just wanted to say that for like a mental health thing, and that's probably with cops too, who really love the job, who are ready to go, or not ready to go, and that stuff happens. So just be prepared mentally. Anyway, that's my mental health message for first responders today. What I want to talk about is I was ready to retire. Right? I was ready to go. I had enough. And I want to tell you about my last big fire before I retired. And if you're watching, this is the fire. I'm pointing to it right now, but I'll put it up. I'll put a picture up as well on YouTube. But this here is right across the street, right around the corner, across the street from the firehouse. It was Paragon, right? It was a taxpayer. A taxpayer is a row of stores, one-story row of stores, all storefronts, all commercial buildings. And it was in the middle of the fucking COVID Rona pandemic outbreak, right? And the fire department we were doing all sorts of crazy shifts. Guys were working like 24, and then they were working another 15 and getting off at midnight, and then getting back on at 9, and then other guys were coming in. We were all over the place as far as tours were concerned. Guys were getting sick and they were tapping out, and the job had bare bones guys. It was like a skeleton crew. That's why they were doing all these crazy shifts. We were running our balls off doing CPR. It was the busiest time, like for the fire department, I think, in recent memory. Going on medical runs, we were doing CPR between 5 and 8 times a night at nursing homes, at private homes, but mostly we went to a lot of nursing homes. We were constantly, all night long, we were running doing CPR for like a few weeks to a month and a half or so, at least. And then I guess, I don't know. But we were running our balls off. And I'm sure the whole city was. It was brutal. And it was just nonsense. And the more that I was there, the worse it got. So what would happen was, I was already contemplating retirement because I was getting overtime. I was working my way up, getting my hours up. I retired service retirement. I didn't retire with 3/4 or disability or anything like that. I went service retirement, just wanted to go, be done. I never have to, I got to look myself in the mirror. I never have to look over my shoulder. I never have to worry about working another job or somebody watching me because I'm on disability, whatever. I went service retirement. I'm very happy and I'm very proud of that. that's that. Anyway, I was already contemplating retirement. I was like, oh man, I think I'm ready to go because I was able to buy back my military time. So it put me over 20 years at the time. And I was just like, I'm thinking about it. So what was happening at midnight, half the crew was getting bumped off the rig. And you'd get a detail from somewhere else. So now we're running with less than enough guys on the rig, nobody that you know, less than enough guys on the truck. They were dropping a guy. At midnight, guys weren't allowed to ride. So I just knew it. I fucking knew it. I knew it in my bones that something was going to happen. I had a feeling. Exhausted, had been there for like 3 or 4 days. I was just getting over being sick. Guys were getting sick. We were just exhausted. It was terrible. It was a terrible time to be a fireman in New York City. Just the way the city ran things, the way things happened, all just fucked up. Anyway, midnight, it was like 1 o'clock, maybe 12:30, and the tones go off. Now remember, half the guys are off the rig, so I don't even know. It's just me and the chauffeur right now. I have no idea who is coming on, and I have no idea who's not coming on. Tones go off, call for fire, around the corner. I'm like, oh shit, man. And I was like, here we go. So we go downstairs. I have the nozzle. The engine chauffeur is a senior guy, a couple years more than me, but he's senior to me. And the boss is a great guy that I know. And it's just me. I don't know. Like, there's nobody behind me. So then some kid comes walking out of the back, and he's a probie, and he's from the Bronx somewhere. And I don't know if I'll ever see it. I have no idea who the guy was. And he's like, oh, I'm working here. I'm like, all right, dude, you have control. There's no backup, man. It's just me and you and the chauffeur. Turn the corner, pull out of the quarters, turn the corner. Now, the truck also, they're coming with us. They also have details from who knows where. Nobody knows because we didn't have a run from midnight to like 1 a.m. So nobody knew. I didn't know who was on the rig and who wasn't. Pull around the corner, and there's fire roaring out the back of Paragon, this department store that has been closed down for a while. That whole strip, a few of the stores were closed down, a few of the stores were still open. And this taxpayer was on Lenox Avenue between 134 and 133. We're literally around the corner from the firehouse. Get the call, turn the corner, and I'm like, here we fucking go. Right? We pull up. The chauffeur takes the hydrant. I go in the back. I go on the back step, grab my 2.5 folds, and this kid is like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, you're going to have to control the stretch. I got nobody else here. And we're going to push this 2.5 inch line into this tenement. Into this taxpayer and do the best we can. The truck sets up the stick, and by that time, 69 engines showed up. And I knew a couple of those guys, and they were like, Kenny, what do you want us to do? I said, just fill in between me and this kid. I said, back me up, do the door, whatever. So now I have a couple guys behind me. But again, they're not my guys. They're from 69, but I trust those guys. So I'm like, all right, I got a crew. I'm ready to go. Ready to fight this fire. We're going to do the best we can. 30 puts the stick up, and the roof man's going up the stick. And it's the black and brown smoke that were fucking rolling out the front of this taxpayer. Truck guys are cutting grates down. The saws are going. As this kid's going up the aerial, it's about to light up on him while he's on the aerial going over this roof. And somebody yells over the radio, get off the roof, get off the roof, get off the roof. As that happened, the chief rolled up. And he's like, who's saying get off the roof? They were ready. They were afraid that it was going to roll. It was going to light up on him while he was on the ladder getting on the roof. So at this point, I look up, I see what's going on, but I'm trying to mask up. Now, mind you, I loved fighting fire. I loved being on the nozzle. I don't care what anybody tells you, whatever department you're from, wherever you work, whatever position you've ever had, there is no better position on this job as a fireman than the nozzle position at a real kick-ass fire. That is the truth. No matter what you've done or what you do, being on the nozzle in a real kick-ass fire is the best position on the job. And I loved it more than anything else on that job. Being on the nozzle and fighting fire, putting water on fire, going down hallways, the heat, the smoke, loved it. Terrified me, but loved it all at the same time. I loved that adrenaline. That's what I lived for on that job. I loved that. That's what all I wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything else. When I got a little older, I liked driving a lot because that was fun. I was getting older. My body was starting to break down. But the nozzle position was the best. So anytime I had a nozzle job, I was like, yeah, let's go. Like the guys were excited. We were excited. It gave me so much energy. This job, I get on the back step and I grab my folds and I just go, this is going to suck. I don't want to do this anymore. That's when I knew that working that job and having a nozzle for that job and saying to myself that this is going to suck the rest of the night. This is going to suck and I'm not into it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. That's how I knew I was ready to go. Because normally that's the position, that's the time where I was so geared up. I was so fired up to go in there and put water on fire and stretch that line and da-da-da-da. But I knew that I was going to be pushing a 2.5 for hours and hours and hours because nobody I knew behind me, nobody in my company except for the chauffeur, all guys that I don't really know too well, except for the boss. And I was like, this is going to suck. I don't want to do this anymore. And that's how I knew I was ready to retire. So when I retired, I was happy. I was ready to go. I was ready to start the next chapter of my life. The fire department chapter had closed. I was ready to go. So that's when I knew for sure I was ready to retire. That's when I really geared up the overtime. That's when I really stepped up and really put my, and all that stuff. I was ready to go. I mentally had checked out at that fire. That I was ready to be off this job. Anyway, stretch the 2.5, flake it all out. The truck guys cut the grates down or the gates down. I'm masking up. I'm kind of having a little trouble with my masking up and put my gloves on. Boss was like, you ready? You ready to go? And I was like, all right, yeah, I'm ready to go. So we start pushing in. Now I'm pushing 2.5. I got these guys behind me now. I got a decent amount of guys on the line. And I open up the line and I'm just trying to hit it the best I can. And it's all in the fucking rear. And as soon as I open that line, shit just started collapsing. We got in, 25, 30 feet maybe 30 feet. And I was just trying to put water on fire and it was just everywhere. Everywhere in the rear. All the fucking smoke was heavily chugging out the front. But all the fire was in the rear and we didn't go back that far. But I was hitting it, and the ceiling was collapsing, shit was coming down. It was just, and the bosses were like, and the chief, basically all at the same time, were like, everybody out. There's nobody in here. Everybody the fuck out. We operated maybe a couple of minutes in there. Couldn't make it in too far. Didn't feel like I fucking really did anything. Nobody felt like they did anything. So chief pulled everybody out, especially after he heard the guy saying to the guy to bail off the ladder because it's going to light up on him going in the front. Pulled out and just hit it from the outside. They set everything up. They set up all these tower ladders. Like you see that. This thing went to a fifth alarm very quickly. Very quickly. I sat on that 2.5 outside and put water into that building for a couple hours. Even truck guys were coming up to me. They were like, Kenny, take a break. We're not doing anything here. Just take a break. So finally I handed it off to somebody behind me. I think it was from 69. I don't even know. But that job was just a shit show. It went to a fifth alarm. FDNY will only go to a fifth alarm. After that, they'll start asking for extra engines and trucks. They won't call it a sixth alarm or a seventh alarm. But if you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see 15. I'm going to put up a couple other pictures that I have from the front of that job. You see all the fire in the front. You see all the fire in the rear. It was in the entire thing. There was fire in that cockloft in that entire taxpayer. We weren't doing anything with one line or two lines. It just wasn't happening. So, pulled everybody out, set up tower ladders. We set up, I think, the multiversal they used. We hit with a couple lines from the outside. They just basically fucking surrounded and drowned and make sure it didn't extend outside of that. The funny thing is, one of the guys that got off the rig at midnight, he was in a truck. He was so exhausted that he didn't even know that was going on. He was just so passed out in the bunk room, and every time the tones went off, he was like, I didn't hear anything. I go, dude, there were companies all over the place, all in our firehouse because we were right around the corner. in and out of the firehouse. Guys everywhere, laying on couches, sleeping in bunks, using the bathrooms, in the kitchen. He was like, I had no idea what was going on. He slept right through one of the fucking biggest fires of COVID. It was crazy. But that's when I knew that I wasn't having fun anymore. That whole thing with COVID, the way that the job handled it, the way the job. I mean, listen. I'm not a guy. I'm not a boss. I don't know how else they would have handled that, as far as manpower and all that stuff. But the way all that was handled, the guys, they just beat up the guys that weren't sick or was still at work. Half the other guys were off from being sick or whatever. It was just a disaster. It was just a nightmare. And I was just like, I had it. I'm done. This is when I knew I was done, was this fire. Fifth alarm in Harlem on Lenox Avenue, Paragon, taxpayer. I got a few pictures from that job. It is what it is. You know, I know I'm gonna get a lot of guys in the comments be like, that was a can job. You lost the building, whatever, man. We've all been to fires like this where it becomes a fifth alarm and it's surround and drown or whatever. You know, you lose buildings. It fucking happens. The fires all go out eventually. And funny thing, a year after that, the rest of that taxpayer went. There were still stores operating a couple of stores away. We were able to save some stores. A year later, all those stores burned down. I wonder why. Because there's a group of, they're not, you don't want to call them projects, they're high-rises, where Brian Quinn made his roof rope rescues, roof rope rescue, those high-rises. And the rumor was that they were looking to build more high-rises here, where the taxpayer was that weren't in use. So that one burned down mysteriously in 2022 or 2021. That was 2021, I think. And then like a year or two later, the rest of them burned down. So now there's nothing there. I think they're going to start building those tenements there. Coincidence? I think not. Anyway, yeah, two cans to any truckie, they would have put that fire out, right? That was a tough one for me. That was a tough one because I had mentally was like, I don't want to fucking do this. I tried my best. I did my job. I did the best job that I could. But I didn't have that feeling anymore where I wanted to get in there and get in the fire and get in the smoke. I knew that I was like, this is going to suck. This is going to suck, and I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. That's when I knew. Anyway, that was my last big fire. Fifth alarm and more. Plus, in the fire department, nozzle job, 2.5. My last fire was the night that my last tour as a fireman. I did a 24, and traditionally, when you're on your last tour before you retire, the guys give you the nozzle. You know, whatever the riding positions are supposed to be, they give you the nozzle for your final 24 or your final tour, hoping you catch another job just like this. Well, I did. I caught a job. My very last tour. I caught fire. Can you fucking believe it? I mean, what are the odds that on your very last tour you catch a fire? Well, this fire was a garbage can fire. That was my last fire. It was the last time I saw flames on the New York City Fire Department was a garbage can fire. And I will put that picture up as I'm talking. It's hysterical. The guy's like, your last nozzle job, douchebag. Way to go. It's just typical of how I got sent out. A freaking garbage can fire. I think one of the senior guys that was driving was like, yeah, typical of your career, garbage fire. He was breaking my balls, but it was fun. But it was a great night. My last tour in the firehouse was really a great night. All the guys showed up, even though I wanted to keep it low key because I didn't think I was anybody special or important to have a big thing. Usually you have a big party and everybody shows up, but everybody showed up. They all spread the word. I kind of wanted to keep it quiet because, like I said, I ain't nobody special. I'm just a regular guy who did irregular things, who had fun in being a first responder. But my last tour was a lot of fun. All the guys showed up. They all wished me well. Got some pictures of that. Maybe I'll throw those up. Anyway, garbage can fire. I went from a fifth alarm, first do nozzle job, to a garbage can fire on my last tour. Figures, right? All right, I'm talking enough. I'm at about 30 minutes. You guys have heard enough of me. So till next time, Remember, it must be true if you heard it at the kitchen table. I'll see you at the big one.